Hi Yogi, and welcome to another slow flow class with me, Oceana. And of course, this week we have arrived at week 4 of our deep dive into the balancing postures, which means that we have landed on the advanced sequence. If you are a beginner and you have somehow ended up on this video, I would strongly encourage you to go back to one of the previous weeks, because this is not the place for you. And I think even if you have to repeat one of the previous weeks, then that is no bad thing, because it will really enable you through repetition to build a much more solid foundation and to gradually progress your way into this sequence at the appropriate time. If you're an intermediate student, you've been doing yoga for a couple of years and you're here to challenge yourself, and you come into the sequence and at some point realize that some of these postures are still out of reach for you, then please don't feel discouraged, because I have purposefully designed this sequence to be very, very challenging. So don't be surprised if that is what you find here. Of course, if you're an advanced or intermediate student, the things I will expect from you are that you've been practicing probably for several years. I will expect you to know how to do a vinyasa and how to modify it if you need to. I will expect you to know how to do basic yoga postures, how to get into and out of them. And of course, I will expect you to know them either by their English or Sanskrit name. And the only thing that's slightly different or particular to this sequence is that we will be doing a few standing postures that include variations of half lotus. Now, half lotus, there are many reasons, predominantly actually the shape of your thigh bone, why your thigh might not want to externally rotate in the way that is required for half lotus. And if you force your way into half lotus, it will put a lot of strain on your knee joint that is completely unhealthy. So I will of course be giving you some options if that is the case for you. If external rotation of the thighs is very difficult, there's some options in there. But if those don't feel good to you either, then feel free to go completely off-piste and substitute in a way that does work. And that's really it. I don't think you need any props unless you would like to have some bricks just in case at the front of your mat. We will be starting in a downward dog. So once you're ready, meet me there, Yogi. Once you've found your downward facing dog, we'll move through a few limbering exercises. So from here, as you inhale, round through the spine to come all the way forward into a high plank until your shoulders stack on top of the wrists. Come all the way onto your big toes, reach the crown of the head forward, and then bend your knees deeply as you exhale to take your sitting bones all the way up and back into downward dog. We'll move through a few of these in your own time. So inhale to come all the way forward, exhale, almost as if you're trying to arch the spine to lead the sitting bones back into downward dog. Just a few more rounds, seeing if you can match that movement to the length of your own breath. Working through each of the vertebrae as you move through the spine, letting the movement ripple through the back body. And this final time we'll meet in our downward dog. As you inhale, come all the way back forward into your high plank. Let both heels drop over to the right side of the mat. Let the left arm lift into a side plank. As you exhale, take it to the second side. Both heels drop over to the left. Right arm lifts up towards the ceiling. We'll meet back in a high plank and exhale our way to downward facing dog. From here, big toes touch at the back of the mat as you inhale, left leg lifts up and back. Point the toes. From here, bend your top knee and allow the knee to open towards the ceiling into a split dog. So the foot is dangling behind your hips. You're keeping your shoulders square towards the front of the mat. And we'll move into a little figure of 4 active hip mobilization here. So this top knee is going to draw forward and across towards the right elbow, left elbow, and then reach it up and back into opposite directions, so that you start to paint a figure of 8 with your knee a few times in this direction. And here we'll change the direction of the movement, so we'll take the knee across to our left elbow, right elbow, all the way up behind us to the left side, to the right side. And again, 2 more times, just on this side, moving in that direction. Release your left leg down and we'll swap sides, so right leg lifts up and back. Again, bend that top knee, allow the hip to open for a few rounds of breath. In split dog, let the foot dangle behind you. Keep the shoulders square to the front of the mat. And from here, draw the top knee all the way forward and across towards your right elbow to the left elbow. And then bring it behind you to the right and to the left. And again, just 2 more times, moving in that direction, painting that figure of 8. And then simply switching directions. So we'll take the knee to the right elbow to the left, bringing it behind us to the left and to the right. And 2 more times in that direction. And when you're done, come back into your downward facing dog. From here, walk your hands back towards your feet. Have the knees nice and soft. Let the head hang for a moment. Have a little nod of the head, yes, and a little shake of the head, no. And let the spine be heavy towards the floor. Let your belly touch the thighs. With a soft bend in the knees, inhale and sweep the arms all the way up and overhead into your upward salute or Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale to release the hands down by your side in Tadasana, mountain pose. From here, we'll shift our weight across into the left leg so that we can draw the right knee into the chest. Now, if you know you have knee issues and half lotus is not a good option for you, you can simply place this leg into a high version of tree pose, and you can do the exercise in the exact same way, following on from here. Otherwise, if you can get into half lotus, you're going to bring your right heel in towards the left hip crease here. Allow the knee to descend and flex the right toes towards the shin to protect the knee joint. So option 1, you could keep one hand, your left hand on the foot to hold it in place and bring the right hand into half Anjali Mudra at the chest. Otherwise, you could reach the right hand across the back of the body and see if you can catch maybe your big toe with your index finger and thumb. And if that puts you into too much of a twisted position like me, then you could see if you can release the foot entirely and bring the hands together at the heart center. And from here, we'll slowly start to fold forward. As you hinge forward from the hips, see if you can keep the spine long, still pressing your right heel towards the hip crease and relaxing the shoulders down the back with the crown of the head reaching down. Folding as close as you can towards that standing leg. And gently, when you're ready, the hands release underneath your shoulders so that you can bend your standing knee and bring your heel up towards the sitting bone. From here, find a focal point that's a couple feet in front of you that you can sort of rely on as we go into our toe balance here. You'll start to make your fingertips light, and one hand at a time will come together at the heart center into our toe stand for just a couple of breaths. See if you can find some stability here. Of course, you can always still have one hand on the floor whenever you need it. And when you're ready, you've had enough of that, you're going to walk the hands to the front of the mat into a half lotus high plank. Coming onto the outer edge of your back foot, right arm lifts all the way up and overhead into a side plank variation. Take a couple of rounds of breath here, and then when you're ready, top hand spins to the floor. You're going to come through your normal plank into the second side, so spinning the inner edge of your back foot down, left arm lifts towards the front of the mat, pressing the floor away but keeping your lower elbow a little bit soft and unlocked. And then bend your left knee so that you can gently release the outer edge of the right foot in front of you, and then re-extend the legs, lift the hips, lift your left arm up towards the ceiling into fallen triangle on the first side. Staying for just a couple rounds of breath. From here, we're going to re-bend our left knee so that we can retract the right knee under the hip. For a moment, coming into gate pose, the left arm reaches overhead to the front of the mat. We're lengthening through the entire left side of the body. And we'll windmill this top hand all the way down and walk our way to the back of the mat. From here, still with the right toes tucked behind the knee, we'll point our left toes to the back of the mat and bend the left knee deeply. We'll come into a low version of Vishwamitrasana here. So what you want to be able to do is to slowly start to bring your left shoulder under the knee. Possibly the left hand can come to the outer edge of your left foot. If you get there, you might be able to make the left foot light, so lifting it off the floor. And if that's worked out for you, you can grab the outer edge of the foot and then press the heel away to extend through the leg and lift the center of your chest towards the ceiling. Maybe lifting the gaze as well, just for a breath or two here in Vishwamitrasana, a little variation of side plank normally, but we're doing the low version. And from here, the top foot comes all the way back to the floor. We'll frame the foot with both hands and tuck under our back toes to step the foot to the outer edge of our left foot so that you've crossed the ankles behind one another. We'll come into a little side bend variation of a standing forward fold. So we'll walk the hands over towards the left side of the mat. And you should feel that deep stretch along the outer edge of your right leg. Have to think there for a moment. When the legs are crossed, sometimes it gets quite confusing. And from here, when you're ready, we'll walk the hands back into center and all the way over to the opposite side so that we can spin the feet to face all the way forward. And we end up in our standing forward bend, Uttanasana. We'll inhale to lift and lengthen the spine halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. And exhale to fold back in Uttanasana. From here, gentle bend in the knees as you inhale, sweep the arms all the way up and overhead, Urdhva Hastasana, upward salute. Exhale, release the hands down by your side, Tadasana, mountain pose. We'll shift our weight across into the right leg, making the left foot light and drawing the knee into the chest. Again, coming into our half lotus. So if you know that's not a good option, you're going to place that foot into a tree pose variation. Otherwise, the heel of your left foot is going to aim towards the right hip crease. Again, option one is to stay here and you can keep the right hand on the foot. Left hand can come to the heart center into your half Anjali Mudra. Or if you wanted to, you could reach the left hand behind you and go for that bind of the big toe. Again, if that's not a good option for you, maybe you're able to keep the foot in place and bring the hands together at the heart center. Again, as we exhale here, we're going to start folding forward, hinging forward from the hips. Start to bring your torso closer towards your standing leg, still pressing your left heel up towards the hip crease and reaching crown of the head towards the floor. Find a little moment of stability here and then release the hands under your shoulders so that you can bend your standing leg and bring your right heel towards the sitting bones. Again, for a moment, find your focal point in front of you first. Then when you're ready, make your fingertips light and bring one hand at a time to the heart center into your toe stand. If it's a little bit wobbly, don't worry too much. Even the yoga teachers among us will struggle with this one. And see if you can find just a few moments of balance. Of course, you can still have your hands on the floor if that's helpful. And eventually from here, once we've all had enough, we're going to walk our hands forward to the front of the mat into our half lotus high plank. We'll come onto the outer edge of the foot, reaching our left arm all the way up and overhead. And gently, top hand comes down. We come back through plank to the inner edge of the back foot. We can bend the back knee in order to extend the right arm overhead first, and then straighten the right leg into the full version of that side plank. When you're ready, bend your right knee to bring the outer edge of your left foot in front of you. Press the hips up, reach your right fingertips up for that fallen triangle on the second side here. Really pressing through the hips for that last breath. And then when you're ready, right knee bends so that you can bring the left knee under the hip. Right arm reaches overhead, lengthening through the entire right side of the body. Gently, as you exhale, top hand comes to the floor. You walk your way to the back of the mat. Turn the right toes to face the back of the mat here and bend your right knee. From here, again, we're coming into that low version of Vishwamitrasana. So we'll see if we can shimmy our right shoulder under the knee. We might be able to get the hand to the outside of the foot. And if that's the case, we may be able to float the foot off the floor in towards us. And if that still works, at that point, once the foot is floating, you can see if you can grab the outer edge of the foot with your left hand and then pressing the heel away allows you to spin the chest open towards the ceiling into that deep side bend of Vishwamitrasana. Stay for your last few rounds of breath. If you don't have a microphone right in your face, then you could lift the gaze up towards the ceiling. And gently, when you're ready, the knee rebends, you can release the foot to the mat. From here, frame the front of the foot with both hands. Unravel your back foot and tuck the toes under so you can step the outer edges of the feet together, crossing the ankles behind each other, or in front of one another, rather. Gently, the fingertips walk over towards the right side of your feet so that you come into that little side bend variation of forward fold. From here, the hands walk all the way in the opposite direction until we can spin our feet to point towards the front of the mat again. And from here, we'll walk the hands forward into a high plank. We'll take an in-breath here, then as we exhale, we'll lower down Chaturanga Dandasana on the exhale. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog, pressing the floor away, lifting the chest. Exhale takes us back into our downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. From downward dog, bring your big toes to touch at the back of the mat. As you inhale, lift the right leg up and back, point the toes. Three-legged dog. As you exhale, draw the right knee in towards the chest for tiger's curl. Step or shimmy the foot forward between the hands and then spin your left heel towards the ground. Heels in one line. As you inhale, windmill the arms and open up into a reverse warrior, reaching right fingertips to the back of the mat, pressing equally through both feet. As you inhale, you come via warrior two, right hand all the way to the floor ideally, into Parshvakonasana. Left fingertips can reach to the front of the mat with the pinky finger edge spinning down. Stay for just a few rounds of breath here. And from here, we'll reach the top hand behind us. The right arm reaches under your front thigh to bind the fingertips behind the back. And we'll make our way into Bird of Paradise. So we'll shimmy the back foot forward. You can do that in one step or a couple of steps. And we'll shift our way into our left leg here so that we can start to lift the right leg off the ground. Once we've established our focal point and our balance, we can start to extend the right foot up, lengthening it towards the ceiling, really reaching through that big toe, keeping the chest open for our last few rounds of breath. And when you're ready, gently, you rebend the top knee and bring the foot all the way back to the floor so that you can release the bind. When you get into your forward fold, lengthen the spine halfway, reach the crown of the head forward. exhale to fold back into your legs. Softly bend the knees as you inhale, come all the way up to standing. With the fingertips reaching really tall, start to shift your weight into your left leg. Draw the right knee into the chest. And then again, flex the toes towards the shin. Bend your standing leg so that you come into Arjanasana, sometimes also referred to as figure of four pose. We'll bring the hands together at the heart center, lifting the chest towards the fingertips. From here, bring the back of your right hand to the sole of your foot and lift the left arm all the way up and back into a twisted variation. Now, option one, to keep things simple, you could keep the gaze forward. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can lift the gaze towards your back thumb, but it is quite tricky, so do be warned. And of course, if you wanted to deepen the twist, you can slide your bottom hand a little bit further towards the floor, which should allow you to expand the chest a little bit more. And if you get all the way with the sole of the foot onto your upper arm, you can bring the top hand down. And from here, bend your standing leg. Both hands will want to go to the outer edge of, or the left outer edge of your mat, I should say. And from here, we'll make our way into Dragonfly Pose, which is, of course, an arm balance. So you do want your right foot above the elbow, and then you can either keep your left elbow free, or if you wanted to make it a little bit easier on yourself, you can tuck it in towards your left hip. From here, start to shift your weight forward into the hands so that you can make your left foot light and then press the foot forward to the front of your mat, flexing the toes towards your face. And if you lose your balance, don't worry about it too much here. See if you can find your focus just for a couple of rounds of breath. And when you're ready, we'll make our way back into our Arjanasana, our figure of four pose. We'll draw the right knee into the chest. We'll see if we can hook the big toe or the outer edges of the leg and then extend the leg forward for a Hasta Padangusthasana variation. Not here for long, we're going to pistol squat our way down by bending the left knee until we very, very slowly with control bring the sitting bones to the floor and lift both legs up towards the ceiling into a boat pose variation. You can extend the legs, you can keep the knees bent. Smile up at your big toes to release any tension in the face from the previous few postures. Bend your elbows if you want to fold a little bit closer towards the legs. And for the last couple of breaths, make it an active version. So release the arms towards the ceiling. See if you can hold the legs as they are and keep the spine long. And then gently release the feet forward. Fold in towards the legs for Paschimottanasana. Seated forward fold. Toes lift towards the ceiling. Let the spine round forward, but keep the collarbones reaching towards those big toes. For a moment, allow yourself to gather your breath back in, to find a deeper connection to the breath. Let yourself soften with each exhale. Gently from here, walk the hands back in towards yourself. You can, of course, float your way back if that's part of your practice. Otherwise, I'm simply going to cross my legs and then step one foot at a time back into a downward facing dog. From here, you can stay, you can rest, or you can move through a vinyasa. Inhale takes you forward to a high plank. The exhale lowers you down via Chaturanga Dandasana. The inhale takes you into upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, and exhale takes you back into downward facing dog, and we'll meet there. From your downward facing dog, bring the big toes to touch at the back of the mat, lift the left leg up and back as you inhale. On the exhale, draw the knee in towards the nose, round the spine up towards the ceiling for Tiger's Curl, and gently step or shimmy the foot forward between the hands. Bring your right heel to the floor and prepare for warrior two. As you inhale, right arm windmills all the way to the back thigh, left arm reaches up and overhead into a reverse warrior. On the inhale, coming back through warrior two, left hand to the inside of your front foot, right arm reaches up and overhead for Parsvakonasana, extended side angle pose. Stay for a few rounds of breath, keep the chest spinning open, spin the pinky finger edge of your top hand towards the floor. And from here, reach the top hand behind you. See if you can bring your left hand and wrap it around the front of your thigh so that you can clasp the fingertips behind your back. And then you can step the back foot in one go or a couple of shimmies to get it forward. Shift your weight into the right foot so that you can make the left foot light and lift it all the way up to standing. When you get there, either staying with the knee bent or gradually extending the big toe towards the ceiling without dropping the chest. Keeping the gaze forward and steady. See if you can manage a few rounds of breath here. And gently, when you're ready, the top knee bends so that you can release the foot, release the bind. Lengthen the spine halfway here as you inhale. Roll your shoulders back. As you exhale, fold back into the legs. Softly bend the knees as you inhale. Sweep the arms all the way up and overhead. Lift the gaze towards your fingertips. And from here, shift your weight into your right foot so that you can draw the left knee back into the chest. And bending the standing leg quite deeply, you're going to bring the left ankle just above the knee, flexing the toes towards the shin, taking your sitting bones down and back into Arjanasana. Hands come to the heart center, elbows wide. From here, bring the back of your left hand to the sole of your foot. Reach the right arm all the way up and overhead to the back of the mat. Expand the chest towards the right side of your mat. And if you wish, you can take the gaze towards your back thumb to challenge yourself a little bit more. Of course, you can also come deeper into that twist by sliding the bottom hand towards the ground and spinning the chest a little bit more open if you can. And if you were able to get all the way past your elbow here, you could bring both hands to the right edge of your mat. You can press your left foot on top of your left upper arm. You can either keep your right elbow free or tuck it in towards your right hip crease. Making our way into Dragonfly Pose here, we'll send the gaze as far forward as we can so that we start to shift our weight into the hands. And we might be able to float the right foot, maybe even extend it all the way to the front of our mat. Staying for just a couple of rounds of breath here, finding our balance. And when you're ready, we'll reverse all of that. And especially if you didn't make it into the arm balance, we will meet you in Ardhanasana. Don't lose your balance now after the tricky bit's over. From here, we'll slowly come to stand and draw the left knee into the chest. You can either hook the big toe or grab the outer edges of the foot and then slowly extend the leg, bending your right knee to pistol squat your way all the way onto the floor until your sitting bones are down. Then lift both feet up towards the ceiling, hook the big toes and lift through the balls and heels of the feet. Crown of the head is nice and tall, the collarbones reaching forward, smiling at your big toes to release any tension in the face that you might still be holding. If you wanted to take this into more of a fold, you can bend the elbows to the side and draw the legs a little bit closer. If you're making this active, then float the arms either side, maintaining that same shape. And as you exhale, release the legs, gently fold all the way forward. Toes reaching towards the ceiling, the legs are flexed. As you exhale, fold into the legs for Paschimottanasana. Seated forward bend for a couple of rounds of breath so we can regather our breath. When you're ready, walk the hands in towards yourself. Again, either you're floating your way back to downward facing dog, or you can cross the shins. See if you can go for the shin cross that feels a little bit more unusual, so that we keep things interesting. And we'll step our way back to downward dog. From here, either staying in downward dog, taking a rest in child's pose, or moving through a vinyasa with me. We inhale forward to high plank. We lower down chaturanga dandasana. We inhale into upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. And the exhale leads us back to downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. When you're ready, lower the knees all the way to the floor. Big toes touch, knees are wide. Rest the forehead on the ground. Stay for a few rounds of breath. Gradually walk the hands in towards yourself, round through the spine to come to a seated position, and that's where we'll meet. And from here, I hope that you had a wonderful practice. Of course, we'll close it together. We'll bring the palms to touch at the heart center. We'll bow the fingertips towards, or bow the forehead towards the fingertips rather. And we'll use this final moment here to give ourselves a little bit of gratitude for showing up on our mat, for our willingness to try, for our playfulness and experimentation. And then we'll plant our sankalpa, our good intention here. So maybe it's something you're working towards in your practice, in your personal life. Of course, if you can't think of anything for yourself, you send it out to somebody else who needs it more than you do. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, Yogi. So thank you so much for joining me in today's practice. Of course, if you have questions, comments, etc., just leave it all down in the comments section. Losing my way with words now. And if you wanted to find me anywhere else online, all of that information is going to be in the description for the video. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and spread the good word, share it with your friends. Thank you so much, and see you soon, Yogi. Bye.